Welcome to the Owner Identity Podcast, where we empower men experiencing same-sex attraction to live a life of purpose and possibility through the power of Christ and for the glory of God. My name is Jason Meller. I am so glad you're here. Come on in, have a seat. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we'll step into the topic of confusion. I don't know about you, but I have experienced plenty of it in my life. I've thought, what do these same-sex attractions mean about me? Why did God allow this? Can I have deep friendships with regular guys? Will I ever be happy? What do I do about the people who are telling me to identify as gay? My goal is that by the end of this episode, you will not be discouraged by confusion, but allow it to trigger anticipation, knowing it is a doorway to clarity, connection, and freedom. Confusion is uncomfortable because it threatens our sense of control. I like black and white answers, straight lines, clear labels. But with same-sex attraction, man, life rarely feels that simple. For me, the confusion showed up in so many ways. I didn't know where I fit in with other men or how I was going to measure up. I remember feeling this electricity in my body when I looked at other guys. And I didn't know what to do with that. Was it wrong? Was I normal? Was it something I was supposed to act on? Then in college, I developed romantic feelings for a friend, and that just threw me for a loop. I was getting so many different messages. My church said one thing, my peers said another, my body said something else, and my heart felt caught in the middle. I even met with a pastor hoping for some clarity, and the message I heard was, just be a good Christian and don't worry about it too much. I walked away thinking, that's it? That's all you've got for me? And at the same time, the world was telling me being gay is normal. Just embrace it. But deep down, I felt this pull in a different direction. I knew that acting on my attractions, it wasn't going to lead me to the life I truly wanted. It seemed like stepping into a black hole, like I would lose myself completely if I went the direction of my attractions. What I really wanted, what I was excited about, was being with a woman. Not because I was in denial, but because that's what felt true to me. And even then, the questions didn't stop. Was I man enough to be a husband? Was I attracted to women enough? The confusion, it felt permanent, like I was always going to be confused, like I was never going to figure it out. And the worst part was I shamed myself for that. I thought, man, if I can just fix this, if I can just get out of this confusion, then I would finally feel okay about myself and get to life as it should be. But I know that's not how it works. Shame doesn't lead to clarity, just makes the fog of confusion thicker. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to rush through the confusion and started giving myself permission to process it. And over time, I began to see things more clearly. One of my biggest shifts was learning the difference between arousal and desire. I realized that while my arousal template might have developed toward men, my deeper desire was for women. I wanted to be somebody that was strong, that they could lean against. And that was something I could honor. I started learning about the common patterns and histories of guys who experience same-sex attraction. And it gave me a framework to understand what I was feeling. But even more than that, I learned what it really means to be a man. A real man isn't somebody who fits into a specific mold or meets everybody else's expectations. A real man shows up. He's someone who respects who God created him to be, who honors his life experience, and who moves forward in faith, even when the path isn't clear. And the biggest clarity of all came when I finally understood how God sees me. He doesn't look at me with condemnation. He looks at me with deep love, with excitement for my life. He's not apathetic about me. He's cheering me on. The truth of that changed everything. It gave me the courage to stop running from the fog and start walking through it, step by step. What I've learned is that while walking within that fog can feel frustrating and disorienting, it's actually full of hidden gifts. It slows us down, helps us notice what's unsettled, deepens our dependence on God, and makes us appreciate the hand that we're holding in the process. So let's break that down. The idea that fog slows us down. It's not a bad thing. You know, when the road is clear, we tend to race ahead, often missing the details of what matters most. But fog forces us to pause, to pay attention, to move more intentionally. And in the same way, I think God sometimes allows confusion to slow us down so we can notice what's really going on, our fears, our motives, and our dependence upon Him. Fog exposes what's unsettled. Confusion is like a mirror, reflecting back where we're still wrestling with identity, beliefs, and trust. It's uncomfortable, but it's also an opportunity to ask deeper questions, like, what do I truly believe about myself? What do I want my life to be built on? Fear, culture, or faith? What do I hear God saying, even when the noise around me is loud? And fog deepens our dependence on God. When you can't see 10 feet ahead, holding the hand of somebody you trust becomes everything. That's what walking with God in confusion is like. His presence may not clear the fog instantly, but His hand, it comforts and strengthens us and gives us the courage to take the next step. And finally, fog forces clarity. It's not sustainable to stay in confusion indefinitely. At some point, you have to engage with it. You have to let it motivate you to seek clarity rather than shutting down or escaping. It pushes you to wrestle with the deeper questions, to lean on God, and to take intentional steps forward. When confusion slows you down, exposes what's unsettled, deepens your dependence on God, and forces clarity, it creates the perfect conditions for growth. Not easy growth, but growth that is built on something stable. And it's not an instant process, but as the fog lifts, you'll see the beauty of what God is doing in your life. I want to give you a warning. When we're in the fog, it is tempting to grab onto anything that feels like clarity, just to escape the discomfort. I call this false clarity. It's the quick answers we give ourselves to avoid wrestling with the deeper questions. So, for example, when it comes to same-sex attractions, guys might seek to escape the fog by identifying as gay. This might feel like an easy label to explain the experience, but can also limit the fullness of who you are. Ignoring the experience altogether is another way to escape confusion. Pretending that the fog doesn't exist, though, doesn't make it go away. It just delays the clarity that God wants to bring. Forcing ourselves into a box, whether it's trying to fix ourselves to conform to others' expectations, this kind of false clarity often leads to shame and exhaustion. False clarity provides temporary relief, but it's fragile. It doesn't address the root of the confusion, and it often leaves you feeling more lost in the long run. True clarity, on the other hand, comes through wrestling with the fog until God shows you what's real. So how do you lean into confusion instead of run from it? Here are 5 unique tools. Tool number 1, name the fear behind the fog. Often, confusion isn't just about not knowing. It's about being afraid of what the answer might be. So ask yourself, what am I afraid to face here? Is it rejection, failure, being misunderstood? Naming the fear takes away some of its power. Tool number 2, the 3 layers of why. When you feel confused, I want you to ask yourself why, 3 times. And by the 3rd time, you'll often uncover the deeper belief driving your confusion. So, for example, if you're confused and say, why do I feel so unsettled about my same-sex attractions? You could ask yourself why. Because I've always believed that my faith calls me to live a certain way, and I'm afraid that these feelings mean that I'm failing. Why? Because deep down, I've tied my worth to being perfect in my faith, instead of trusting that God loves me, even in my struggle. Why? Well, because I've been afraid that if I'm not perfect, I'll lose God's love in the acceptance of others. I've been carrying this belief that my worth is conditional on my performance, my choices, my attractions, and how others see me, rather than resting on the truth that God's love for me is unshakable. Now you're not just dealing with surface confusion, you're addressing the root. Take that to God and others and process through it. Tool number 3, say to God what is true about Him. This is one of the most beautiful ways to process confusion, by following the example of David in the Psalms. David was brutally honest with God about his pain, his sadness, and his questions. He asked, "Why are you hiding your face from me?" He asked, "Why is my soul so downcast?" But the key is, David never stopped there. He always ended his psalms of lament by declaring who God is. And you can do the same. When confusion feels overwhelming, take a moment to speak out loud what you know to be true about God. God, you are faithful even when I don't understand. You are my refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. God, you are good, and your love endures forever. God, I know you are not a God of confusion, but of peace. Tool number 4, create a truth anchor. Write down one truth about God or yourself to hold on to when confusion feels overwhelming. For example, God delights in me, even when I don't have it all figured out. Keep it somewhere visible, on your mirror, your phone, or in a journal. And tool number 5, seek wise counsel. Clarity often comes through community. A mentor, pastor, coach, or friend who's walked a similar road can help you see what you can't see on your own. So, if you're in the middle of confusion right now about your attractions, your future, your identity, I want you to know this. You're not broken. You're in process. And God does his best work with people in process. Let confusion become an invitation, not a prison. Bring it to him. Trust that he's weaving clarity even when you can't see it yet. And here's my challenge for you this week. Pick one of the tools that I talked about today and try it. Whether it's naming your fear, the 3 layers of why, creating a truth anchor, or saying to God what is true about him. Take one step toward engaging with your confusion. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you would like more clarity regarding same-sex attractions, I invite you to watch my free masterclass titled Navigating SSA, What Works. You can find it at ownyouridentitynow.com/masterclass. And lastly, I want you to know that you are not defined by your same-sex attractions or any confusion in your life. You are defined by the one who calls you his, and he wants to hold your hand. I'll talk with you soon.